A very good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining in for today's webinar, Law of Expense Management. It's a 1-hour CPD session, and it's saturated for 1 hour of professionalism CPD. Stephanie from my team has shared all the details on the chat window. So for the ones joining in late, we have the attendance link on the chat window, which Steph will post again after 30 minutes at 2:30 p.m. And we do have the details of the webinar title, Law of Expense Management, as you all see here on my screen. Please make a note of the title to claim your respective Law Society credits from your portal. And is it 1 hour professional? Yes, it is a 1 hour professional from CPD. Once again, I'm repeating for the regulars who are joining in for the CPD webinars. uLaw only conducts professionalism CPD. We don't give substantiative CPD hours. Is that good? Any questions, anyone, before I begin the session in general regarding today's session? Either which ways, Stephanie from our team would be sharing all the details once again at 2:30 p.m. Any questions at any point in time? I request all of you to use the chat window so that we don't get interrupted with the presentation. And I will try and take the chat in between, if not at the end of the session. Thank you all once again for joining in with ulawpractice today. So almost 2 months done with this year. So it shows the first CPD for March to be in a sequence of law office, expense management, of course. We did see earlier this year about law office, client management, law office, matter management. In the same sequential order, I just thought law office expense management would be nice to look into, as it's one of the most important topics covering a few different areas of expenditures or withdrawals from your trust or general respectively. So as every other webinar, we do have a nice agenda for this webinar as well. Very simple, very short, but at the same time very important to understand the basics. Point number one, to understand the difference between disbursements and business or office expenses. Many times we all tend to confuse between both, but today I'm going to clear that ambiguity. We're going to see what falls under disbursements and what falls under business office expenses. Now, I might not go too much in detail about disbursements because we do have a disbursements demystified CPD session coming up soon. But we are definitely going to see the following under disbursements. What are disbursements? How do we spend that on behalf of the client? What goes out of the trust account? What are the general disbursements? And how do you recover them? And what are law society requirements? We're going to see them in a nutshell. We should not going too much into depth. We're going to try and see all of these about disbursements today. And about office expenses, we're going to see what are the different types of office expenses, like when compared to what are first of all office expenses. We all know that to run our office on a daily basis, we do incur some expenses. The least, I know these days, especially since 2020, a lot of us are moving into virtual offices and, no more into physical office space, but try and work hybrid or whatever that works for all of us. But there are some minimal expenses that you incur on behalf of your office. Worst case scenario, your phone, internet, your banking charges, drawings to pay yourselves if you have an assistant, salary, etc. So we're going to see all those type of expenses. How do you nicely categorize them, and what is the purpose behind categorizing these expenses? Why do we give so much importance, or why do we attach so much importance behind choosing what area it goes into, whether it is an office expense, and even under office expense, what is the sub-ledger we are choosing, whether is it my phone, is it my internet, is it my rent or bank charges. So we're going to see the purpose behind what is office expenses first, what are the type of office expenses, and what are the different sub-ledgers that these get posted, and the purpose or the benefits behind doing so, and how practice management, last but not the least, how a practice management is going to help you, give all those details without you having to strain too much to record these one by one. And of course, we're going to see a few other reports from the expenses part aspect of it, like let's say expense book and analytical reports. So that's about the agenda. I might have elaborated it, even though they're very, very few points. In nutshell, we're going to see what are disbursements and office expenses and how they work, and what are the different documents you need to maintain from Law Society aspect of it. All right, so we have more people joining in. I'm so happy that we have more of them. Viewer number 32 has asked if there's any sound. Stephanie, I request you to hear, probably connect with viewer number 32 on a chat separately and help them. I hope they're able to connect to the audio using phone. Would you mind sharing a phone audio coordinates with them for joining, so that way they can hear us better? For the ones joining in late, the topic for today's session is Law Office Expense Management. We did discuss a short agenda. We're going to be seeing into detail soon. It's a 1-hour CPD session, only professionalism CPD. You can claim for your CPD credits from your respective Law Society portal. I request you to take a screenshot of this or make a note of this topic name. There's attendance links that's already posted in. We will post it again at around 2:30 p.m. Thank you. And so getting into the topic, the first part of it is going to be disbursements. As we all know, disbursements is a very integral part of running a law office, because it is not only withdrawal or expenditure, but it is the expenditure that you have incurred on behalf of your client, which means that you need to record it in the books under the specific client. They matter whether you use physical paper pen, spreadsheet, old school method, or using a practice management software. The expenses that you've incurred on behalf of your client needs to be recorded under your client's ledger, so that way whatever you've spent for can be invoiced and recovered from your client later. Now, in layman's terms, very, very simple, expenses incurred on behalf of your client is known as disbursements. I don't want to confuse you all with the big definition that you see on the first slide, but in a nutshell, expenses incurred on behalf of your client is disbursement, and office expenses is nothing but expenses incurred on behalf of maintaining or running your office is office expenses. So what we're going to be seeing mainly today, the two key areas. And what are the Law Society requirements for a disbursement? Of course, maintain proper books. So maintain proper books is a very, very short form of saying that you need to maintain the bills that you've incurred, proof if you're going to charge client from trust or general. How do you record them? The best way to record a disbursement, I tell you, is to follow your money. That's what I always tell. When you follow your money, how did the money get spent? Is it out of your general account, out of your own pocket, out of the trust account? How did the money go out in order to expend this particular expense, which is the disbursement? Now, when you track down how the money went out, you will clearly be able to record it under the respective books, whether it's going out of your trust or general. Now, when you're recording it under trust, Law Society is more keen and is more interested, rather, to see if you have recorded it in the right manner. For example, when you pay out of your trust account, we first want to see if the money is sitting in the trust account. You cannot just like that pay for a disbursement from trust, because pool trust has different clients' money sitting in there. Make sure that you first of all have enough money sitting in the trust account for this particular client for whom you're going to make a disbursement. And once you do that, you will be able to record it under their ledger saying that disbursement for photocopies, disbursement for court filing fee. Now, there's a difference between both. A court filing fee is an actual fee, which is definitely something that you've incurred on behalf of the client and you're going to pay for it, which can absolutely go out of your trust account if there is no profit motive there. Now, if there is something that is probably for your disbursements purposes, you will have to make sure that it is going out of your trust or general respectively. Now, if you're making it out of your trust, you have to make sure that it is going out of without a profit motive in there. For that reason, you will have to keep a track of all the bills, amount that you have spent, and there is no profit motive in there. So record when the disbursement was paid and how it was paid and what was the reason for the expense. Now, besides that, entering into the right client and right matter is very, very important. Now, that's the place where you're going to be able to enter all the details of the client and the respective matter that the disbursement was related to. Now, you spend for client A and you cannot record it in client B. As simple as that, right? So making sure that you have incurred the disbursement, and if this disbursement has some profit in it, then make sure this disbursement goes out of only your general account and not your trust. And ensuring that it is recorded under the client's name and matter that the disbursement is related to, and you don't mix it up, is also an important point to note here. Now, if it is paid from general account, it is not obviously your client's money. It's your money that you're expending it and then recovering back from your client. So you're going to decide what portion you're going to invoice them. Very classic example is photocopies over here. When you incur photocopy charges, or rather when you charge your client for photocopy expenses, which is what is being added to the invoice as a disbursement, most of the times we tend to use our own printer, our own photocopy machine at the office or your home office. And there's specifically no expense that you've incurred. You did not probably go to the library and print it. You did not go to the Shoppers Drug Mart or UPS and print it, but you used your own printer and paper. Of course, the paper, ink, and printer is going to be your office expense, whereas for this particular disbursement, there was no expense incurred. Hence, it is a complete profit. So you cannot be doing this out of your trust account. You will be recording this out of your general account. So decide what portion, whether you're including a profit or whether you're not including a profit. Everything needs to be entered here clearly, recorded first under the respective client, their matter. What was the disbursement amount? How much are you charging the client and how much have you incurred, if at all you've incurred anything? Invoice the client of course, always do a pre-bill. Now, in uLaw, there's a concept of pre-bill. We give you an option to preview bill, draft bill, make sure everything is fine, then proceed with an invoice. When you proceed with an invoice, your client is going to receive an invoice outstanding, or the client owes you money, which you're going to be recovering shortly and get paid for the expense. That is about the steps that you need to make sure when you're managing the disbursements. Now, I want you to talk about the disbursements that can straight away go from trust and the disbursements that can straight away go out of your general account. Let's keep it very simple for trust. When it comes to trust, any court fee, filing fee, government fee, any fee that you're incurring on behalf of the client that does not have any profit motive. You are spending the actual money on behalf of your client, or you're spending the actual amount on behalf of your client and only claiming the actual amount that you paid for them or paid on behalf of them. So when paid from trust account, the plus point is you don't have the headache of recovering the expense. But many of us tend to ignore or avoid paying from trust for a very simple reason, that we do not clearly know what are the type of disbursements or expenses that I can pay from my trust and what is it that I can pay from my general. That is why I'm telling you to keep it simple. Anything that has profit motive or anything that has even a small percentage of profit, never do it from trust or never record it as if it's done from trust. Always go from general cash owner's pocket. That's the concept. But if any straightforward expense that does not carry any profit motive, then it can be done from trust, like court fee, filing fee, government fee. And the best part of paying from trust is you don't have to worry about recovering the expense, because you are, after all, spending your client's money. It is not your money. End of the day, it will reduce the hassle of bookkeeping requirement. Now, imagine you're spending from general, or rather you're recording as if you're spending from general. You need to keep a track of your bills, making sure you're recording them as if paid from general or cash or any other account, and the method of payment, client and matter, disbursements it was paid for, from how it was paid, and what is the portion you're invoicing your client, and what is the portion you're charging yourself, or rather reporting as an expense yourself. All those need to be recorded very neatly under the respective ledgers and sub-ledgers. And of course, there's a difference between doing it directly from trust and from general or any other cash accounts. So make sure that you should record all of this appropriately under the respective accounts. So it all starts from follow the money. The money goes out of your trust, keep it simple. If the money goes out of general, yes, then you have to record a little bit more additional information, but it is what it is. You cannot record photocopy charges from trust, right? So it has to be from general. So the clear division of differences in the type of expense or nature of expense, what goes out of trust and general, is your basic understanding to record how you spent and how you should record. Now that's about how you had spent on disbursements. Okay, guys, so I'm doing disbursements before I go to office expenses. I hope you're all clear by the last 15-20 minutes now that I'm talking about disbursements at the beginning. Then I want to talk about the office expenses. So this is law office expense management. In a law office, you tend to have both nature of expenses, both disbursements and office expenses. Currently, we're talking about disbursements, how you can record a disbursement or how you should record a disbursement, what are the nature of disbursements that goes out of trust and what are the nature of disbursements that goes out of general, and what goes behind maintaining them and under the appropriate client and matter and the other documents that you would need to maintain. Now, let's say you've incurred the disbursement, you've recorded under the respective matter, you have verified whether it has gone from trust or general respectively, and you are ready to recover it from your client. The favorite part for all of us, right? So when to recover these disbursements? How should you do it? Now, a lot of us have a small doubt, or we're very hesitant when it comes to, can I deal with disbursements separate of my legal fee? Absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. So if you're using, in fact, uLaw, we've given you a separate option where you can only raise an invoice for disbursement. You can choose whether you're raising an invoice for dockets or whether you're raising an invoice for disbursements or whether you're raising an invoice for both. So before raising an invoice, make sure to do the following. Record the expense information with the respective date, with the respective amount, with appropriate taxes, whether it's taxes inclusive, taxes exclusive, taxes exempted. Ensure if you are doing it from general, the markup, markdown, everything has been entered appropriately. So the data entry is what you give us, is what gets transformed into invoice, ledgers, reports, fee book, expense book, every possible report that you can generate from the program. Once you're ready, please go ahead and raise an invoice. Once you've raised an invoice, there can be only two options for you to get paid. Number one, if you have money sitting in trust, even though you have recorded the disbursement as if it's paid from general. Now, listen carefully. You might have money sitting in trust, but you still chose to do the disbursement from general because this does not fall into the clear category of disbursement that can be made from trust or that can be made from trust. So you made the disbursement from general, raised an invoice, then you transferred money from trust to general, or if you don't have enough money sitting in trust, you ask the client to pay it into your general account. So once you raise invoice, there can only be two things that can happen. Either money should be transferred from trust to general, if there's money sitting in trust, or get paid into general account, but ultimately you get paid. If it is paid by you for your personal money, from your personal money or owner's pocket, let's say some of us don't have a business credit card. So we choose to use personal credit card, which is recorded as owner's pocket. It's not a harm. So you record it as owner's pocket, and once you record it as owner's pocket, you should then pay yourself or pay the third party for the expense that was made. So make sure you have all of these ledgers and journals updated as per Law Society guidelines. That is more important. As you keep recording the information, uLaw does all of these for you at the back end. We make sure the appropriate items or the appropriate, the withdrawals, deposits, invoices that you've raised, AR, AP, all of those go into the respective ledgers and journals, gets posted, and we provide it to you as the Law Society report or Law Society compliance report, end of the day, for you to make the difference. Now, types of disbursements, we're all very familiar, but each practice or each area of practice demands a different type of disbursement, but very, very common are some things like photocopies, couriers, they're all billables, and other recovery of expenses, with profit margin, without profit margin, where any consultancy expenses, any travel expenses, mileages, any photocopies are mostly recorded as unit rates or actual or the ones recovery of expenses with profit margin. So both of these you can very clearly see as quoted here is only from general account. Now, when you see both trust and general, you will see it is mostly only actuals or billable. There is no profit margin at all in the picture when you see both trust and general. So it means that no profit when you're billing out of trust. Please make sure. I'm talking about only disbursements. Okay. Now, what are the documents that you need to maintain for these disbursements? So, so like I said, some of you might not be using a software. Some of you might be still maintaining a spreadsheet. For them, this is going to be a little hard because you have to, kind of do it on your own manually and trying to pull up each type of ledger for receipts, disbursements. We're right now talking about only disbursements. So let's just focus on the withdrawals part of it. So when you're withdrawing money from your trust or general, respectively, and let's say we focus only on disbursements here, not office expense for a moment. What are the ledgers that you need to maintain? Definitely general disbursement journal, client's trust ledger, trust disbursement journal, client's general ledger, and fee book. There are 5 types of documents that are appropriate for this example that we're talking about. And basically all of these demonstrate money gone out, definitely, even though it's client's trust ledger will show receipts, but you focus only on disbursement when it comes to this part. Again, fee book, it's going to show me the legal fee that I've raised, but along with the legal fee, there's another column you're seeing there, which is called disbursement billed. So if I have any disbursements billed for that particular client, Jackie Jones or Peter Piper or Ricky or, whosoever, it will definitely show up the disbursements billed and the fee book. Client's trust ledger should also show if there's any disbursement. General ledger, absolutely yes, because general ledger is nothing. Client's general ledger is nothing but the activities that include both fee and, including HST. So definitely, if you have raised a legal fee invoice, it will show up with the disbursements in there. Likewise for trust disbursement journal and general disbursement journal. Making sure you capture these appropriately with the right date, client amount, including HST, excluding HST, and if any method of payment, etc. That's the level of work that goes into maintaining these ledgers. If you're using a software, especially like you are, you don't have to worry about this part because you're only required to capture this information under the respective client's matter under disbursements. We transform that information you input into these documents for you if the information is provided us is absolutely right. So that's why I always say follow the money. How did you spend it and what, on behalf of whom you've spent it goes into the respective client matter and out of the bank respectively, and from there on into the ledgers, journals, fee book, etc. So far, 30 minutes into today's session, we've completed the disbursements portion of today's topic. So we were talking about understanding the difference between disbursements and office expenses, By now, I'm sure you would all have got an idea of what are disbursements, how do we expend it, how do we recover it, what are the types of disbursements that goes out of trust and general respectively, what are the reports that you're required to maintain. So far, this is what we've seen. Now, what are office expenses? Very simple, expenses incurred to maintain your law practice. As simple as that. Like I said, whether you have a home office or you have an office space or whether you run a virtual office, there is money going out of your account. How much soever you like it or you don't like it, you end up still paying for your office expenses. Basically, expenses incurred to run the overall business. Very similar to disbursements, but only thing is that a big difference between disbursement and office expenses. Disbursement is incurred on behalf of the client, whereas office expenses are incurred on behalf of your own law office to run the overall business. You need to record it, yes. Now, a lot of us tend to miss out or tend to avoid office expenses. Now, I'll tell you one of the major reasons why I would recommend you to, or rather uLaw would recommend you to maintain your office expenses. One of the top points I would say on top of my mind is you could calculate your HST properly. You get a real picture of your HST. Let's say you're only recording your legal fee and disbursements. There's no way you're going to end up finding the real HST. While you would have spent so much money on your office or setting up your office or running your office, but let's say you haven't recorded your office expenses. Now, how is that you're going to keep a track of office expenses if you cannot calculate the HST, GST, PST returns? And obviously, your profit margin is not well known. So you have to make sure that both the disbursements and office expenses are equally given importance and are recorded for the real picture of your HST, GST, PST calculation. Likewise, also for other things that of course, if you want to file your returns, you will be able to arrive at the right calculated profit or loss and basically your corporate taxes. And you will be able to know for your firm's health, for your internal analysis, understand how much of these have been spent under the respective heads that you're seeing here. Could be for setting up your office, such as furniture, telephone, cable, business promotion, rent, bank charges, salary, pay yourself, whatnot. The list can be exhaustive. Again, it is being maybe for your own practice, whatever is the type of expense, whatever is the type of nature of practice it is, you would have the respective expenses that you would be incurring. And please make sure that you are going to be recording them on time to time, and that it is not being ignored, and that way you're able to arrive at a very clear picture, or a real picture rather, of your expenses and your profit, loss, etc. Now, how to record them, and when to record, and what to record. Now, how to record, yes, again, I'm going to be probably showcasing you towards the end of this webinar if I have time on over a quick demo, but these are certain points for you to remember on what needs to go into recording a simple office expense. the date of expense, name of expense, as simple as that, and the category of expense, amount, how did you spend for it, the method, whom did you pay to, and how was it paid, whether the bank or credit card or your own pocket or cash, how did you expend it? Now, these are the information that gets typically captured and gets transformed into your ledgers, journals, fee book, analytics, whatnot. You need to record them either individually if you're not using a platform. Even if you're using a platform, some people like to do it on a daily basis, so they record as they go. Some people like to do it in bulk. They like to import a bank statement. In uLaw, we have an option to import the bank statement, of course, in CSV format. And even further, now we have something called Bank Connect in the program, where you can just simply connect your bank and take action and record all the expenses. And uLaw is smart to capture. If it's McDonald's, we would say meals. If it's Tim Hortons, we would say meals again. If it is Uber, we would say travel. As simple as that. And if it is monthly plan fee, we can recognize it as your bank charges. And in fact, we would record it without taxes, which is tax exempt, because bank charges are tax exempt, right? So recording inclusive of taxes, exclusive of taxes, recording with or without taxes, very, very important. This is the key point for all of you to note. If you want to take a screenshot, please feel free to take a screenshot. Ensure to capture the following information. Those 7 points are really very important, and they form the basis of the information that gets transformed into the respective documents that you're seeing here, right? Number 1, expense book. Number 2, your HST, GST, PST statement. Number 3, your expense statement, profit and loss, your report on borrowings, your report on, let's say when your profit and loss and income and expense statement, all these 5 reports will typically have information on what you have spent for, how did you spend for it, and whether there's HST, GST, PST captured in it. How much you have received as HST, GST, PST, and how much you've paid back. Everything is respectively captured in over here. So make sure, including the date, amount, taxes, everything is being captured. And of course, lastly, it is also about the expense analytics. And that means that every month, every quarter, every week, yearly, daily, however you would like to split it or take an idea of what is happening in your firm. What are the kind of expenses? What are the nature of expenses? Where your money is going out too much, where you're spending top expenses ratio, and get an analysis how you can reduce them if you have to, in fact. And you'll get a fair idea of your business health, and that would help you to visualize the data better, because we give you in pie chart form, we give you in table form. Now, if you're using a uLaw program, these are all added benefits. I'm just letting you know that if someone's using uLaw already and you've not been working on all these analytics tabs, that's one of the most bottommost tabs, but that's also one of the most interesting tabs in uLaw, something that gives you stress and that also relieves stress in you. So try and see if you could spend some time on analytics, because you can definitely know some things that have that were unknown, that were something that you were not aware of, and you get to know a better idea of all of these. Right. Well, we are almost to the end of it, but I also have more points to share with all of you on how you can record it. I'm going to definitely walk you all through. I think we'll have fairly 10 minutes. I'll utilize the time to show you everything in our uLaw platform. And what are the benefits, though, whether it's uLaw or anything else that all of you are using? What are the benefits, though, for recording these events as and when they happen? They give you more ease. They give you the true picture of your bank account, of your financial records, of everything that is happening in your practice. And it lets the software do all the work while you can do more of legal work and less of accounting work. And finally, it's all about compliances, ease of use, accountability, and analytics. We all want to make sure all of these are something that gives you comfort. At the same time, you're aware of what is happening in your practice and you're on top of it. If you're not a uLaw user, I highly recommend you to visit our platform, ulaw.io, and sign up for a free trial and check it out. But since we have about 15 minutes here with me, I'm going to quickly jump into our platform to show you all a few examples of disbursements and office expenses. I'll just try to pause for a moment to see if there are any questions. If there's anything that any of you would like me to, repeat over here. We do see some generic questions. I'd like that to be taken offline. Stephanie, thank you so much, just so that we're all giving more importance to today's topic, so that way we can address all the questions coming in. Hi. So now, a lot of you might be using uLaw already. Some of you might not be using. So for the ones who have not seen a uLaw platform before, this is our platform. We're going to go into, now the disbursements are from matters. Disbursements can be entered from accounts as well, but I personally prefer entering it from matters because I would not be making any mistakes. I would just be doing it from disbursements directly. Viewer number 35, there's a question here. Let me pause here, all of you, for a moment. Can we bill disbursement without taxes from trust account? That's a good question. Yes, of course you can. Disbursement paid out of trust is entered here directly. So let's say you're entering a disbursement paid out of trust. It is directly entered here. If my trust had money, I could just say add new disbursement, pay out of trust. Let's say this is a check. This is for a filing fee, and you paid it to courthouse. Sorry, I just took a question out of random. I felt it was really helpful for all of you. And I do a payments here, which is that I've taken out the $500 out of my trust account as a disbursement. Now, if I want to do a disbursement, I do a pre-bill, and let's say I only do disbursements, which is a partial invoice, and try to look at the disbursement right here for all of you. And the disbursement is what you all see here. There is no docket. The $500 here, check got paid out of the trust. So the taxes play a role for disbursements only when it comes to general account. So when you are adding a disbursement from general, cash other accounts for actuals, or from any of these options for general, here you have an option for taxes to be exempted or taxes to be included. If I want to charge $25 for photocopies, I need to make sure if it is not taxes, there are no taxes, tax exempt, I need to make sure to make it as tax exempt. And enter photocopies. If it is taxable, I make sure to enter it like this. So now with the disbursement, there's a top portion and the bottom portion. Now the top portion, remember we were talking about deciding which portion you're charging your client. The top portion is what you're charging your client, and I'm charging my client $25, whereas I incurred only $5. I can do this here. I can insert a profit here because I'm doing it from general. When I did the court filing fee from trust, it was an actual. There was no taxes. There were nothing in the picture over there. So right now, let's say this $5 was also not spent. I can leave my bottom blank, absolutely, because I used my own printer. So this entire $25 is a profit to you, and $3.25 is the HST you've received, which you will remit towards the government. So right now, I'm leaving my bottom portion blank because like I said, I use my personal printer. So since I left my bottom portion blank, I'm not even worried about how I'm recording these payments because there's nothing that I've recorded over here. So you just simply save it and you go over there to raise an invoice and see how it looks like right now. Okay, so let's see. I want to do only disbursements, and in this preview, you would see that there's a $25 plus taxes that is recorded as a disbursement, which will go out of your general account, which will be reported as an expense made on behalf of the client. So disbursement, that is, and you can invoice and move that from trust to the general. So let's say I want to invoice, and if I have the money sitting in my trust account, I can either move it into my general account or I can get it into my general account directly. So either a trust to general transfer or directly into general account helps, which is as client payment. So in this case, there is no legal fee. There's a $28.25, and I've taken out $500 from my trust. So do I have any money sitting in my trust? No. So the amount due from client is $54.25. Let's say you click on question mark, and the client, if you have, apparently you do have money sitting in trust. So that's why you should always click on question mark to see what is sitting in trust. So you could transfer and make this $28.25 your money, which is what you already have in trust, which is what you've spent for, and just move this $28.25 from trust to general, and you can later pay yourself for that. While this is done over here, let's quickly see what are the documents in which these two disbursements I added now, one from trust, the $500 for court filing fee, and one from general, the $28.25 for photocopies. Let's see if it is recorded in the ledger and journal, respective. So the client's trust will obviously have the $500 that went out and the $28.25 that was transferred out of trust account. Okay, so the $28.25 for photocopies and the $500 that was transferred out, both are here. This is client's trust. Now let's say I want to do a general disbursement journal. At the same time, I won't be able to see the general disbursement journal in here. It will be zero, basically. There would be nothing in it, which is, I did this for other clients, but for this particular client, there's nothing in over here because I did not do anything from general. Now, how is that possible? Because you all remember that I entered the $28.25 only as if the client owes me. Nothing reported in expense. Now let me do a simple thing here. Let me say I actually printed this from UPS store. I paid this to UPS store using my general account. Okay, let's pretend that way. Oopsie, I think I've already invoiced it. So let me go back into action, accounts action, become an admin. I know you might be lost at this point in time, but just bear with me for a minute. You will understand what I'm trying to say. So let's say this photocopy right here, $25 plus taxes you've charged your client. Hence, I was able to see it in the client's trust ledger and general ledger. But why was I not able to see the 2825 in the general disbursement journal, even though on the top it says I have spent it from general? Because the bottom portion is empty. We never reported expense. Now I'm going to go back and report the expense, okay, and save it. And now let me download the same disbursement journal for all of you and show you if the 2825 has been recorded in there. General disbursement journal with today's date. Download again. And you will see the photocopies 2825 over there at the bottom. There you go, 2825. When compared to the previous one, there's no 2825 here. And see this one, there's 2825. So that's the difference between reporting an expense and not reporting an expense. Now, the same one, if I modify a little further, saying this was tax exempt, $25, and save it, just see how this general disbursement journal will show now a little differently, as instead of 2825, it will show only $25. Again, with today's date, downloading the same journal to show you all the three differences. First time when I downloaded, I never reported the expense. So there's nowhere this particular client over here or the transaction at all. The second time I downloaded, I didn't exempt tax. I forgot and I made it as $25 plus tax HST, made it $28.25. Now the third time when I downloaded the same report, I tweaked it a little bit to show you all how it looks without taxes, which is tax exempt. So there's no HST recorded in here, if you all see very clearly. Have some questions coming into the chat window. I want to pause for a moment before I move on to office expense and show you all the office expense example, and then I'll probably wind up with that. But yes, viewer number 33, nice question. If I do a transfer from trust to general, but I do this transfer from the bank with the help of a bank counter, what would be the payment method and would a Form 9A still be required? Okay, so transfer from trust to general, which is a bank transfer at the bank counter, is basically not an electronic fund transfer. Viewer number 33, Form 9A is only for electronic fund transfer. Now, this is not in relation to this topic, absolutely, but since this question came up, I just thought, I can walk you all through this. I hope it's clear. So bank transfer done at the counter is not considered for Form 9A, right? So bank transfer done from trust to the general at the counter, you could simply say transfer to general or bank teller. You could use either of these two options. If you have done it physically at the counter, please use bank teller option. Okay, great. Another question, and I'm going to walk you all through office expense part, is that can a matter even be created without tax? I like how you all are asking me questions that's not for disbursements, but I'm either hoping you all have understood today's webinar on disbursement and office expenses too good or not. So anyways, coming back to the question, viewer number 14. Yes, you can create a matter without taxes. While you create a matter where you all enter the matter title, your rates, your other details of the matter, there's a tiny box that says default tax rate. Now, what this means is we will be charging, or rather you will be charging your client at the default tax rate of province you live in or you work in from. Now, my default tax rate is 13%. If I choose to make it 0, then the taxes is 0, okay? That's it. You won't be charging them any taxes. The general account as important as trust. Thank you so much, Steph, for taking that question for me. I think I saved a minute or two there. Viewer number 14. I hope you got the other question there. Viewer number 35, your question was matter even to be created without tax. I hope you've got that right. Thank you all. Thank you, Steph, for taking all other questions. Quickly jumping into office expenses, last part. Just take a couple of minutes to show you all like how I showed disbursements under various journals and ledgers that it would show up under. Let's say office expense. I'm just going to do it manually because that's easier to show all of you. And of course, I will show the latest method of Bank Connect, one of our favorite methods. So let's say this is a simple rent your office rent for March 23. I like to give as much information as possible. Let's say your landlord has given an invoice, so please enter the invoice number, something like this, 03003, something like this. And the office rent is $750 total. Total that you're paying. Since the auto compute is on, we are able to calculate the taxes appropriately. So remember the date, the subledger or the header, invoice number, if anything, description, total, with taxes, without taxes. How are you expending it? Going out of my general account to my landlord, Ashley, give the name. Then I gave a check to Ashley. Check number is 0030. You want to print a check because you have it in uLaw. Everything done in one shot in less than a minute. This is if you're doing it manually. Okay. So I'm also telling you that you can print your expenses or check from uLaw. Now, let's say the other type of expense, I want to import my bank statement. Yes, you can import your bank statement. Choose the appropriate bank, either general or credit card. Because those are the two accounts, maybe you're doing it. If it's an owner's pocket, sorry, you have to do it manually like how I just did. Add expense, office expense, and cash, and owner's pocket goes under it. Okay? So now what's the purpose of doing owner's pocket? Because end of the year, end of the month, end of the quarter, whenever you feel like you go look into your own pocket and you can pay yourself. And this is what is outstanding. Okay, I need to pay myself this amount of $84.65. So end of the month, I'll just transfer that to myself and say or call it as reimbursement of office expenses made from own pocket. As simple as that, right? So now let's say that I want to import my bank statement or I want to connect my bank. So for my general account, I'm going to connect my bank and show you all how it looks here. Okay. So these are the expenses. Let's say the Starbucks. I want to add it as an office expense for coffee. Do you see how uLaw prompts saying meals automatically? You want to put it under the header meals or gas or stationery or phone, internet. I keep creating different headers depending upon my recurring expenses every month. When I do that, I'll have more clear vision of where I'm spending my money into, and I will be able to appropriately control it from there on. Okay, so now let's say the Starbucks was entered here, coffee, all good, enough. I just want to go ahead and, at this point in time, say I paid using my debit card. Do I have a reference number? If I have, well and good, add it in, okay, and then submit it. When you submit this, just see, I want to draw this particular compliance statement. Let's do, expense book. Okay, we all saw the other things, right? Let's do an expense book with today's date. I want to download, and you'll all see these two new expenses that's added in there. Okay. Now, if there's anything that is coming, especially in expense book, Sunny Daniels, $25 over here. Okay. Now, let's say I want to go back in here and I want to do Jess and expense with detail, or an expense with today's date, and download it. You'll see the expense I just added in there. Okay, I've added it for rent, that's gone there, and some of the client expenses. To be more precise, let's say I want to do a general disbursement again with today's date and download. You'll see how all of these information get split into different ledgers and journals, and you all get to see what went into what. Okay? With HST, without HST, all the method of payments, etc. I hope I've made a little difference with what we discussed today. And I'm hoping that all of you follow these little things that we just discussed. Maybe, whether it's your office expenses or your client expenses, you are going to be able to, do all of these reports, and you're going to be able to understand how you've spent it, whether you've recorded it, whether you need more details, emphasize on what are the expenses that you need to control or reduce, and so on and so forth. So there's so much that you'll have to put into as efforts over here to maintain expenses, your office expenses, your disbursements. So my humble request to all of you, whether it's your office expenses or whether it's your disbursements, try and maintain both of it equally. Emphasize on both of it as equal as possible. So that way, your expectations, the expectations from Law Society when it comes to both disbursements and office expenses are no less. They are almost similar. It's just that, of course, office expenses have a little bit more leniency because it is out of your general account mostly, but disbursements could be out of your trust account too. Yes, so we do have more questions. I'm going to open the floor for more questions that we are officially done with today's webinar. Thanking each one of you joining in today. I hope I've made a little difference in letting you all know how important it is to maintain both office expense disbursement, understand the difference between both office expenses and disbursement, how you need to record it, how you need to track it down, what are the useful analytics that you can do because of recording these expenses, and so on and so forth. This topic can be exhaustive as possible. Like we all thought it will be very easily done, but there is so much into it there. There's so much that goes into it. and I request you all to play around with it if you're using the software or not, irrespectively. Recommended to use software, of course, because it does so much of these back-end work that you just saw while I just imported all expenses and I was able to get reports within seconds and minutes. So yeah, that's about it. I have more questions coming in. How to delete matter if created an error from uLaw. Maybe to keep the session shorter, I'm going to stop the recording if all of you don't mind, so that the ones viewing it later will benefit with 1 hour, 5 minutes at least. And thanking all of you once again for joining in this afternoon with uLaw practice. It was a pleasure walking you all through uLaw expense management, or Law Office expense management. Until next webinar, just letting you all know we have uLaw and Google integration in the next webinar. Thank you all and have a wonderful weekend.